Hello, I'm Rob Davidson, and welcome to our series on cyber risk, brought to you by Worldwide Facilities. Our program today is on the nuts and bolts of cyber liability insurance. With me today is Steve Vallone from Worldwide Facilities and Serene Davis from Beasley. Thank you for joining me.
Thank you.
My first question is for you, Serene. What makes privacy breach unique?
Privacy breach insurance is unique in the sense that it is a liability policy. That's the gist of it. However, the conversation is actually not typically around the liability piece of the policy. That is usually secondary to the first party coverages. And that's because when a breach occurs, there are multiple steps, various vendors, and probably a large cost involved in just managing the breach, figuring out what happened, figuring out which laws may have been triggered, and the overall management of the breach. And secondary is whether or not a claim, a lawsuit, class action is going to follow.
Do all breaches result in a claim?
They don't, especially not successful claims. We haven't seen any real acceptance by the courts to allow class actions to move forward after a breach. There are attempts, certainly. Plaintiffs' attorneys are trying to make money off of these breaches, but in the real world, the courts are usually pretty quick to say that there were no real damages associated with a breach.
Thank you. Steve, it seems like there's no two privacy breach policies that are the same. How can you help our buyers out there of insurance determine and how to evaluate different coverages with all these different policies?
Yeah, you're right. I mean, the policies are different, and not only that, but the terminology is different. But the devil's really in the details, and it's in the exclusions. You want to watch out for trapdoor or gaps in the policy that can be anywhere from an unencrypted mobile device or portable media exclusion to a breach of contract exclusion, to software and patch update exclusions, which can really restrict coverage in the event of a data breach or a claim that you're going to want some coverage for.
Serene, from a retail brokerage point of view, do you find that a lot of brokers understand how to sell this kind of coverage?
No, I think that actually back to what makes this unique insurance, I think you kind of nailed it in the sense that this is a type of insurance that really is specialized. It's not something that every insurance broker understands. It's not something that every insurance broker actually wants to try and handle. So this is where companies such as Worldwide would come into play because they have specialists who really know the cyber and privacy world.
Steve, how do you feel about that? Do you spend a lot of time educating retailers?
Yeah, and part of this is educating the public, educating retailers is a crucial aspect of the whole buying and selling process, because if you can't explain cyber insurance, then you certainly can't sell it. So there's a lot of advantages that a cyber liability policy can offer an insured, and unless those policy advantages and those resources that come with it are stressed and sold, then they don't really know about what they're getting, and you can't really evaluate or value what you're having in your policy. So the ability to analyze and know the difference between the policies, but also know the components of the policy, are really a good way of getting people to buy it more.
Very good. What are some of the optional coverages that cyber policies can offer?
Well, I think first of all, not being optional but are crucial to any cyber policy are the first party coverages for the breach management. And I think it's important for us to discuss what that involves. There's the forensics coverage, which would basically cover an outside vendor, computer expert to come in and figure out what happened during a breach. There are multiple laws that can be triggered, so that's where we would cover legal services to come and assist. There is coverage for something that can seem as simple as printing notification letters, making sure the wording on the notification letters are correct and getting those sent out to the impacted individuals. In addition, one of the remedies that has become very common after a breach is offering credit monitoring or identity monitoring. And this is largely because companies can't take back a breach. All they can do is offer something to say to their consumers or their patients that we messed up. We want to try and help make sure that you don't incur any damages out of this. Those are all pieces of a breach insurance policy that would be covered. Optional would be business interruptions, data assets coverage. If a breach takes down a company and they lose revenue, for example, that would be a business interruption. Or it corrupts data and there's a cost associated with recreating that data. And cyber extortion is the last thing that you see, and that is kind of self-explanatory. Somebody takes over your system and demands money to let it go.
I see. What are some of those key advantages of buying cyber liability insurance that you wouldn't necessarily reflect in the insurance coverage?
I think it's a two-part answer. You know, the process itself of buying cyber liability insurance it's free risk management. You get to go the process of filling out the application, seeing what kind of questions not only you should be answering on the app, but we should be asking internally as an organization. And you know, you're also focusing on maybe disadvantages or areas that underwriters and carriers point out as areas that you need to improve upon, and then you can internally reflect on that. But also now cyber policies and carriers are offering a lot of resources available for buyers, and whether that's all the vendors that we talked about, or it's getting in touch with your your agent and broker on discussing your vulnerabilities and how you can remedy them, whether it's getting a business continuity plan in place or getting a disaster recovery plan in place, or actually involving employee training in your everyday risk management efforts. All those aspects are really, it's a free tool in buying insurance that really is helpful for an organization, and especially small businesses that really don't have those resources available to them.
Very good.
Yeah, I would just emphasize one of Steve's points, which is when you purchase a data breach policy, privacy policy, you are hopefully purchasing that carrier's expertise, and with that, the vendors. Because at Beasley, we like to say it may be your first breach, but it's not ours.
Thank you, Steve Vallone from Worldwide Facilities, for being our guest today. I'd like to thank Serene Davis from Beasley, and I'd like to thank Worldwide Facilities for sponsoring the program today, and thank you, the viewers, for watching.